I pulled into the campsite where the moose was, but I could tell it was aggravated. And I'd been listening to my music quite loud, so I thought maybe it doesn't like my music.
Okay, we got to know, what were you playing? What music do you think a moose would not like?
I was playing this band I really like called Howdy, and they're kind of like real low key.
Oh, I know Howdy,
yeah,
sure.
I love them. So, but I was playing it loud. And for me, I just
Okay,
kind of...
So moose hate indie rock,
exactly.
That's what we know. Hello and welcome to Is This Good? The show where we boldly, conclusively, and scientifically decide what things in this big wide world are good. I'm Matt Austin, and with me as always is production powerhouse Jason Doyle.
Hello.
Hi JD, thanks for coming. And today's guest is the rare example of something I thought was impossible. A podcaster who actually knows what the hell he's talking about. Offline, he's a scientist with a master's degree in wildlife conservation. Online, he hosts Tooth and Claw, the world's most popular wildlife podcast, telling true stories of the most extreme animal attacks ever documented. He's also appeared on CNN's Mission Wild, told a story on This American Life, and gone viral in National Geographic for no less than tackling a bear. All right, let's get into it all with Wes Larson. Wes, welcome to Is This Good?
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Okay, look, I just said you tackled a bear. Then I introduced you, and you're like, hi, guys, thanks for having me.
The most soft-spoken bear tackler of all time.
You know, it's not... Yeah, I don't... It's something that it's been talked about a lot, so I don't feel the need to, like, brag about it. But it was a crazy night. That was a very wild experience for me, having to physically restrain a bear. It was a new one. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's like if you, I don't know, someone steps to you in a bar or something and you kind of push them gently and then they trip on something and then everyone tells the legend of the night you beat the shit out of a guy and now you're like, guys, quiet down. I don't want to attract too much attention. I don't want the other people, or in your case, bears, to find out about me and come
Yeah,
looking.
I don't need bears coming at me. Exactly. Yeah.
So where are you now?
I'm in Missoula. Well, I'm in Lola, Montana, right outside of Missoula. This is where I was raised. It's home. And me and my girlfriend, my partner, we have like a 3-acre farm here. So I'm currently in a little studio I had to build because our house was too small for us and all of our pets and everything to have a quiet space to record. So yeah, I'm in my studio.
Okay, how far are you from the nearest bear right now?
I'm sure there's a bear within eyesight right now, but I can't see it. But for sure, There's bears around. Yeah.
Creepers, as I've always said.
Yeah.
Animals are perverts. So let's get into this story here, because I think it'll give people a good window into what you do when you're not hosting this podcast. So a few years back, you're in Bryce National Park, which is Utah?
Yep, Utah.
Okay, perfect. So you're working for the national park, and you get the assignment. You gotta change a bear's tracking collar. So they put tracking collars on the bears so they can know where they are and monitor them, see if they're healthy. You say, okay, great. You're looking for the cave. You can't find it. Suddenly some snow falls. You see there's a cave behind the snow. It's a pitch black cave that's like literally not much wider than you are. You crawl into it. You smell the bear. You turn a corner. You got a tranquilizer in your hand to tranquilize the bear. And then you go, oh shit, the bear is awake, it's looking directly at me, and it seems pissed off that I'm in its home. We're looking at the picture right now. I mean, this is an insane picture. There was a guy from National Geographic who just happened to be with you and snapped this. So can you explain what happens from there and why the hell you did this?
Yeah, so like a little bit more context. This was actually a project that a university in Utah was doing that the Park Service was funding. So it wasn't with the Park Service, but they were helping out. And I was in this den with my little brother, who was my co-host on Tooth and Claw and was my tech on this project. So he was kind of my helper for everything bear related on this project. We had put this collar on this bear. And the dens give us a really good opportunity to pay these bears a visit and have it in like a somewhat controlled situation. Otherwise, you have to try and recapture this bear when it's out roaming, wild, and that can be really tricky. And so we could visit specific bears in their dens and kind of give them a quick checkup, or if we had to change a collar or do anything like that, it's a good opportunity. This is a black bear, an American black bear. They're pretty much they're the only North American bear species you can do this with. If you try doing this with the grizzly bear, it's going to kill you. Polar bear, there's also a good chance that it would kill you. Black bears just kind of want to get away. So this den was a straight shot down. But the bear, I didn't start seeing the bear's eye reflection until I was a little bit in. They tend to wake up as you crawl in. They come out of hibernation really quickly. And I had to sedate it. So yeah, that's where we're at. I managed to
So you stab it the first time while it's in the cave?
Yeah, it was in the den. I crept up to it within like 8 feet of it, actually it's probably like 6 feet, extended my syringe pole and put it right against the bear and kind of gave it the chance to say no. Had the bear at that point grabbed the pole out of my hands or done something overtly defensive, it wouldn't be aggressive in this point because I'm invading its space. I probably would have backed out of there and just said, you know what? This is a hard situation. I have no real out in this situation. I couldn't bear spray a bear in something like this. There's nowhere for it to go. And again, I'm invading its space in this circumstance. So right. I extended it.
So you want to give the bear the chance to be like, Moderna? I wanted Pfizer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it expresses anti-vax sentiments. No, so this bear had just woken up. It was still a little groggy. I put the syringe right on its shoulder to kind of give it the chance to get upset. It didn't. So then I depressed the plunger by just pushing on this pole. And unfortunately for me, the shoulder wasn't my ideal spot. I really like to get them in their hip because there is a little pocket in here where the drug can go in and it takes a lot longer for it to take effect. I'm pretty sure that's where I hit that bear because it didn't go down as quickly as they typically do. So I crawl out. In the meantime, and me and him remember it slightly differently, but I had asked Jeff to help me, my little brother, help me prepare another dose. And I told them to keep the bear in the den. This photo is of me as I'm kind of backing up and the bear's backing, like coming out of the den at the same rate. So I'm trying just to keep it in there because I'd already drugged it. And I turned to him and the other tech and I say, you keep that bear in that den, no matter what. And I hand the other tech
how? What the fuck are they supposed to do?
I handed him a snow shovel and just with like a plastic blade. And I said, just hit it. Like hit it on the head if you need to. It's better than the alternative of this bear coming out and the drug taking effect and it rolling down the hill or us not being able to find it, something happening to it. And these are robust animals. Like this, nothing that we're going to do to it here is actually going to hurt it in any meaningful way. So I just said, keep it in the den. I'm loading up another dose of the drug. I turn around and I see the bear walking out and he's hitting it with the shovel and it's just not even recognizing it. I mean, it's not even acknowledging that he's there. So this is what we're getting to at the tackling part. I had to run over, and this bear is, again, it's a little wobbly from waking up. I think the drug is maybe just starting to kind of kick in, but I grab its feet from under it and pull it so its body falls down on the snow, and then I jumped on its back. I yelled at Jeff and Jordan, the other guy, to come grab its legs, and I gave it another dose just with a hand syringe right in its shoulder again, or no, this time right in its leg, and then I ran back just to load up another dose just in case and left Jeff essentially holding this bear on his own. And I
love all the people you're with. You're like, don't worry, I'm the expert. I'll take care of it. Yeah. Then you're like, here's a shovel, fight off this bear. Yeah. Then you're like, here, watch this bear that might wake up and be super pissed off. I'd be like, Jeff, wow, thanks, Wes. It's working with you is really great.
Jordan was new. This was his first like bear experience. And then Jeff had worked with me a whole summer and done a few dens already and was pretty comfortable around them as well. But I think when I left him, this bear got up and started walking and Jeff was essentially riding it, trying to like hold it down as it went down the hill. And
the bear's rolling down a hill?
It's not rolling. It's just kind of stumbling, trying to get away from us. And he's now alone trying to secure this bear. And luckily for us, as it moved, it got stuck in some brush, and then it finally passed out there. And so we're not that far from the den opening. We replaced its collar, and then it was a heavy bear. This was a 350-pound bear, which for a black bear is a really substantial bear. So it was the three of us and the photographer. All of us had to use all of our strength to then drag it back up to the den, and kind of tuck it in. Yeah. Yeah, it was a long night.
You said sleep tight. Wait, hold on. So you can drag a bear? Like, so what, you just had two people on each of its arms or something?
Yeah, because it's dead weight at that point. It's completely passed out, completely sedated. So I think people underestimate how heavy something becomes when it's completely out like that. So yeah, we just had two people I think we had three people on the legs pulling it, and then one person like pushing on the shoulders. And luckily we had some snow to work with, and I brought a blanket too.
Pivot!
Exactly. I had brought a blanket, and we'd put the blanket down and kind of rolled the bear onto the blanket. And this is, it sounds like we're being very rough with this bear, but it's delicate, because also when they're sedated, you don't want them rolling in a way where they're blocking an airway or something like that. So this whole time we were being as careful as we could to make sure this bear was breathing normally, that its heartbeat was regular, all of these different things. So it sounds like much more of a rodeo than it actually was, but it was. The photographer took some photos of us kind of trying to restrain this bear, where I was like, hey, those aren't ones that can really see the light of day, because it's going to look a lot worse than it actually was. And he's like, yeah, I completely understand. So yeah.
It's like that scene in Anchorman. It's like, at some point you pulled out a trident. That escalated quickly. When my cats are healthy, they're happy. And that makes me happy. But since I'm not a mind reader, I don't always know when they're unwell. Helping me keep tabs on my cat's health is just one reason I use Pretty Litter. Let's break down the other reasons. Pretty Litter's ultra-absorbent crystals trap odor instantly and minimize mess and dust. No more cat bathroom smell, and no more me uncoiling the vacuum and dragging it over every hour to suck up the litter that's been strewn about the house, which happens way more than I'd like. The crystals last up to a month, which means less scooping and fewer trips to the garbage can. Okay, JD, just because poop and scoop rhyme, it doesn't mean they're fun to do.
Exactly right.
It's fun to say, but it's not fun to do. And here's the coolest thing about Pretty Litter. It changes colors to help monitor early signs of potential illness in my cats, including urinary tract infections and kidney issues. So JD, you know how like the mountains on a certain beer can change colors when it's cold enough to drink?
Oh, yes.
Okay, well this is like that, but for UTIs. Can beer detect UTIs?
No.
I didn't think so. But Pretty Litter can. Pretty Litter ships free right to my door in a small, lightweight bag. I never run out of it. I don't have a huge container of litter taking up space and stinking up the joint. Pretty Litter helps keep tabs on my cat's health and keeps odors down. You and your cat are gonna love Pretty Litter as much as we do. Go to prettylitter.com/good and use code GOOD to save 20% on your first order and get a free cat toy, which could be amusing for your cat or for you. I have a small attention span. That's prettylitter.com/good, code GOOD to save 20% and get a free cat toy. prettylitter.com/good, code GOOD. Terms and conditions apply. See site for details. You are in a tunnel with a bear, you stab a bear, you jump on a bear. I mean, you drag a bear back. Okay, this is some pretty heroic stuff. But now you also went viral again somewhat recently. And I'll just describe this because I actually saw this. I didn't even know it was you at first. I just saw this, came over the online transom. So in this video, you're in a car at what looks like a campground, and you're just filming the campground, and then suddenly a giant moose runs out of the forest. Just a majestic animal, and it stops right in front of your car, and I'm like, wow, the beauty of nature. Then the moose looks back over its shoulder, and then suddenly we see why it's running. A bear, I think this is a grizzly bear, runs out of the trees and starts chasing the moose down the road as you're just in your car with your camera following it. So can you explain why you were there? Because you were there for sort of a crazy reason as well.
Yeah, it's actually a much better story than it should be. But I've been guiding in Yellowstone. I used to work for Yellowstone. But then as the podcast has grown, I just haven't had the time to have a full-time biologist job anymore. So I do a bit of guiding to kind of keep a foot outside. And I'd been guiding. It had been a full day of showing people tons of wildlife in Yellowstone. We were staying in Cook City, Montana, which is just outside of the northeast entrance of the park. It's very alpine. It's beautiful, a tiny little town. And I'd been on the whole day. And so I just wanted some time to myself. So I got in our car, I went to go fill it up, and then I decided, it's such a beautiful night, I'm going to drive around, I'm going to look for moose. And I found some moose down the road, and I thought, oh, you know what? Soda Butte Campground's right up the road. We had done a story on Tooth and Claw about a man, Kevin Kammer, who in 2010, unfortunately was killed in this campsite by a grizzly bear. And it was a really interesting story. It's a really tragic one. That campsite had always kind of loomed large in my mind since telling that story. And so I just wanted to see it. I just wanted to see some of the factors that maybe made this an attractive place for a grizzly bear. And especially the fact that his campsite was right near the creek, and it was also in between this buffer zone in between loops. So it gave this bear a really easy place to kind of obscure herself. And then also, as he was being killed, no one could really hear it because the creek makes enough noise that it covered a lot of that noise of him being pulled out of his tent and killed. So I just was curious. And as I drove up there, I saw that the campground was completely empty. So I thought, it's closed. But then as I pulled up to the gate was open. So I just figured it was like halfway open. So I just thought, okay, I'm going to go down. I drive in and I'm heading toward that second loop. And I see something big and dark standing in the trees. And immediately, I was raised in Montana. I know moose really well. I'm a biologist. I thought, oh, there's a moose. So I drove over and I pulled into the campsite where the moose was. And it was acting strange. It didn't run from me, but I could tell it was aggravated. And I'd been listening to my music quite loud. So I thought maybe it doesn't like my music. Maybe I'm just a little too loud for this moose. Because it seems pissed.
Okay, we got to know, what were you playing? What music do you think a moose would not like?
I was playing this band I really like called Howdy, and they're kind of like real low key.
Oh, I know Howdy,
yeah,
sure.
I love them. So, but I was playing it loud, and for me, I just
so moose hate indie rock.
Exactly.
That's what we know.
Yeah. So I pulled in, and I decided to back up a little bit because it seemed very aggravated. And as I did, it ran out at me, and that wasn't what I was expecting. I've been charged by moose before, but I didn't think it would come at, I was in a big Suburban, I was loud, and it runs out. And I happened to be filming at the time because I wanted a video of this moose. And it runs out, and as it ran out, I thought it was going to make contact with the car. And you hear me in the video go, Jesus, because I thought it was about to hit me. And then I see the moose look over its shoulder, and immediately I knew something was behind it. And I thought, oh, it's probably another moose that it's upset with, or maybe, if I'm lucky, a pack of wolves because they'll bring down moose. And so the moose then runs, and my instinct was to follow it with the camera, but I thought, no, I need to look at what's chasing it. And I pan over, and sure enough, a big grizzly bear runs out and chases the moose down the road. And what you don't see is me put the camera down there.
Got away?
So that's what I was about to say. I throw the car into reverse and just sped down this road way faster than I should have gone in reverse to see what happened. And by the time I got to the end of the road, the chase was over, and the bear had moved into a field and was starting to look for something to graze on. And the moose, I saw down the valley a little bit later, and the moose was fine. You can even see in the video at the end of the chase, the moose has a pretty good lead on the bear, and it's not even running full tilt. It knows that it had gotten away by then.
Okay, pure foot race, bear versus moose. They start at the same time. Who's winning?
They're about the same speed.
Really?
Grizzly bears can get up to about 35 miles per hour, and that's about what moose can do too.
Oh, that's fucked up. They shouldn't be able to move that
They're
fast.
fast, yeah. But grizzly bears are a little bit more explosive than a moose. So if they can get close enough,
Okay.
And
Sprinters.
yeah,
Yes.
if they can kick it in when they're close enough, then they can get on top of that animal. And moose are really top heavy. So they can use that center of gravity to use their weight to pull the animal down. And there's parts of the world like Alaska, interior Alaska, where moose actually make up a fairly large percentage of grizzly bear diet. They're bears that get really good at killing moose. So when we posted that video, when I posted it, and Nature's Metal posted it too, he's a friend of mine and a great guy, there was a lot of comments of people being like, there's no way that bear ever could have killed that moose. And it definitely could have. Had it caught it, it's within its wheelhouse to kill that moose.
Well, I was looking through your comments, and I think I was guessing it must be funny for you having gone to school to this and worked in national parks and being a scientist, and then the average Joe's being just like, well, actually a moose are like this or like that. So there was one comment that I thought was particularly helpful from @cwish31, which just said, why not help moose and hit bear with car? So Wes, why not help moose and hit bear with car?
There's a surprising number of that exact same question. First of all, I would never intervene in something like this. I felt so lucky that I had like an up close view of something very natural happening right in front of me. And that's honestly a big part of the reason why I was comfortable sharing that video, because there's nothing problematic about it. Like, that was just me getting to observe some really cool nature from a very safe place. So I would never intervene just because that's nature and that's what happens. And then personally, on like a personal level, I'm always rooting for predators in like the natural world. I grew up that kid who watched those documentaries and always wanted the lion to get the gazelle, always wanted, that was it for me, was seeing the predator get its food. And so I was really hoping when I backed up that car that the bear had gotten the moose, and then I got to see that. But so that's why not.
So you were more like, why not help bear and hit moose?
Why
with
not
car?
door moose as it was running by? Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into it. But first, some very quick housekeeping. If you'd like to support the show and get exclusive content, go to patreon.com/isthisgood. And you can send topics for future shows to isthisgoodpod@gmail.com. And we'd love if you subscribe to Is This Good on YouTube. All right, Wes, the premise of the show, it's very simple. I'm going to give you a topic. We'll bat it around. You tell me if it's good. And let's start with your specialty, because we've talked about it a bit. We've talked about these encounters you've had with bears. And as I've spent more time in nature, I've heard this one piece of advice given everywhere you look, and I'd like to know if it's true. So popular advice for bear encounters, is this good? And of course, I'm talking about the rhyme, if it's brown, lay down. If it's black, fight back. If it's white, good night. Is this good advice?
This is bad advice. Yeah.
Okay. So if it's brown, lay down, that is advice given to us by the bear?
Yeah, exactly. That's great advice from a bear to a human. This is bad advice because it's much more nuanced than this. All three of these things could be true, but they're not always true. I think the one that is always true is if it's black, fight back. If you are being attacked by an American black bear, your only option is to fight back with everything you have, because this is a bear that almost only attacks people when they're wanting to eat them. It rarely ever happens, but when it does, when a black bear actually makes sustained contact with a human being, it's very, 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 very likely that bear is trying to eat that person. And the only way you're going to discourage it is by convincing it that you're not worth the threat. So right. This is an animal.
You can't just ask it. Like, just to be clear, are you trying to eat me?
You can't do that. They won't answer. They will answer, but in a very bad way.
And just so people know, of the three, black is usually the smallest?
Smallest, yeah. They're small, they're shy, they're very risk averse. Just like any animal out there, they're constantly kind of doing this calculus of whether or not something is worth it for them. Like, if I attack this thing, am I walking away injured, hurt? Is the reward worth the risk? So with a black bear, all your job is to convince it that the reward is not worth the risk. And usually that's not very hard. Okay. A tool that works great with all three of these species is bear spray. It will stop those attacks with all three of these. All right.
Okay, so not a plastic shovel.
No, that doesn't work nearly as well. So if it's black, fight back, yes, we're good with that one. If it's brown, lay down. There are circumstances with a brown bear or a grizzly bear. These are the same animal. Brown bear is what they call it everywhere else in the
And
world.
a Kodiak, because we're Canadian. Can we throw a Kodiak in here?
Kodiak is also a grizzly bear. It's just a subspecies of grizzly bear or brown bear.
Okay, JD, I told you that. He didn't.
I know.
Believe me. I told him he didn't believe me.
Brown bear is what the rest
I owe
of
you
the world
$5.
calls Ursus arctos. In North America, we call them grizzly bears, but this is the same animal. And they are a much more territorial, defensive bear. Often they will engage with the person if a person surprises them at close distance, because where all animals have this fight or flight. With this animal, it's usually flight, but if you scare it too close, it decides to go for fight. And that's why you want a deterrent. You want something like bear spray. That's why you want to make noise when you hike. You want to do all of those things. You often hear lay down or play dead with them. The only time I would ever do that with this animal is if I have exhausted all of my other options and it is actively mauling me. If I have tried to spray, if anything else has happened and that bear is on top of me, then yeah, I'll go into the fetal position and I'll hope that it doesn't kill me. That's a really bad position to be in with any animal. You're giving that animal the control.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Laying on the ground and not moving is very easy to get hurt by an animal in that position.
And there's,
So you're saying the grizzly's not going to isn't trying to eat you for food. If you lay down, it might just walk away.
That's the good question right there, is that more often than not, all this bear is trying to do is neutralize a threat. So the second you're neutralized, it's going to stop. And so if you lay down, yes, there's a good chance that bear is going to be like, okay, mission accomplished, I'm out of here. There's also the chance, though, that it's going to say, oh, maybe this is food, I'm going to try. And then you are in a really bad position that you've put yourself into willingly. And that's why I just say, don't ever get in that position. If you are in grizzly country, carry bear spray, know how to use it, and use it. If you have that kind of encounter, the bear gets to leave, you get to leave, and you don't ever give the control of how that scenario ends to the bear, which is my motto. Don't let the bear decide how that ends, because they might decide to eat you.
So with the bear spray, it's less if it's brown, lay down, and more if it's brown, flush it down.
Yeah,
really,
exactly.
what you're saying is.
Yeah, spray
now,
it down.
are you also saying if it's yellow, let it mellow? Are you saying that?
That's a common saying around my house that does happen. So
Okay.
yeah, we have a very touchy septic system, so we do let that mellow.
Okay.
The final one there.
And now if it's white.
Yeah. If it's white, good night. So the whole idea there is like, oh, if you were attacked by a polar bear, you have no options. You're done. That's not true.
Right.
Bear spray works with a polar bear. Flares work with a polar bear. There's a lot of things that can work with a polar bear. My whole thing is be prepared if you go into polar bear country. This is not as aggressive of a bear as a grizzly bear. It's not as shy of a bear as a black bear. It's somewhere in between. But when they do attack people, it is almost certainly trying to eat you. This is our only bear that is purely carnivorous. They eat meat and that is it. What they want, though, is high-fat, high-value marine mammals. They don't really want to eat us. If polar bears wanted to eat us, every week we would read about someone up north being attacked by a polar bear. It really doesn't happen that often. It's almost always a young male polar bear that just kind of hasn't figured out how to be a polar bear yet. But there are ways to stop them. They're not an immutable force that there's no stopping them. Just be prepared and you can stop them.
Okay. Now, what about have you ever watched the show Alone, where they dump
Yeah.
people into the Arctic Circle and they leave? Okay. How come whenever they're there and they're alone and there's bears all around them, sometimes grizzly, sometimes black bears, they see a bear, and this is always what they do. They go, "Hey bear, hey bear,
Yeah.
hey bear." Is that our best defense? Why are they always saying "Hey bear"? Why not "Fuck off"?
Yeah.
Or I don't know, something.
You can say whatever you want. The bear doesn't respond to "Hey bear" better than anything. For whatever reason, that's the phrase that's just kind of the human consciousness has settled on that being what you should yell out. But really, it's just making noise.
Okay.
It's just letting the bear know that you're there. And I think a lot of it, too, is just the person trying to, convince themselves that they're not in danger too. But that whole technique of making noise to scare a bear off is much more effective if the bear isn't already in your campsite. Like, that's something you're doing as you're hiking, as you're moving through bear territory, because you're giving that bear time to kind of decide, okay, I'm going to get out of here. If it's right outside your campsite or your tent and you yell, there's a chance too that it's going to think, oh, I'm going to collapse this tent and see what that was. So it's not always the best advice.
Right. So then you should just whisper.
I would just kind of sit and be quiet and let the bear, if it was a grizzly bear, if it's a black bear, I'll yell, because it almost certainly is going to run off.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say you deal with these animals all the time. You're in the forest. You see a grizzly bear. It hasn't attacked you yet, but it's maybe 20 feet down the trail. What's your level of panic, or like how fast is your heart beating, or are you so used to dealing with it that it doesn't even do anything to you?
20 feet down the trail, my heart's beating fast. I have a healthy respect for what grizzlies are capable of. The first thing I'm doing is getting my bear spray out and popping the safety off. At 20 feet,
putting the silencer on.
Yeah, exactly. At 20 feet, that bear can be on you in a couple seconds. They're very, very fast. The nice thing about bear spray is you don't have to hit the bear. You just have to put it in between you and the bear. So you spray that as it's running at you. It creates this cloud of aerosolized pepper spray that the bear then has to pass through before it gets to you. And it is nasty, nasty stuff. It gets in their eyes, it gets in their nose and their throat. It just kind of shuts off all their senses, and they just want to get out of there. It's just not a pleasant experience for any animal. So that's what I would do.
But I feel like they're so big, that would be like me, spraying cologne in front of me and then walking through it.
Yeah.
Like,
you've obviously never
no
been
big deal.
bear sprayed. It is not. Yeah.
How do you know, Wes? Okay, what do you? Does Tooth and Claw have a coupon code for bear spray? Because you're really fucking selling it.
We
on
do
this
sell
show.
it a lot. I need to create my own bear spray line because we talk about it a lot. But it's been proven to be effective.
Yeah. How do you start with that? You just find something that smells like shit and you go from there?
No, it's like a tricky. It's the same stuff that you use in mace, but it's aerosolized. So it really gets in everything.
Oh, okay.
It's really nasty pepper spray. And it's really, really bad. So the reason I tell people that it's a better deterrent than like a firearm or something like that is because you don't have to be a good shot. And the other really good reason is you don't have to kill the bear. That bear gets to also survive that interaction that you probably caused. And even if you are a great shot, if you hit an enraged grizzly bear with a bullet, there's still a good chance it's going to have a few minutes left in it. And there's a really good chance in those few minutes it's going to tear you to shreds because it's so mad at you.
Yeah, very justified.
Yeah, but with bear spray, it's such a foreign thing for them to suddenly lose all of their senses that all they want to do is get away. It doesn't necessarily enrage them the same way that a bullet would.
Okay, quick pitch for you. If you do make your own line of bear spray, you got to do an ad like, those like perfume ads like for Chanel or something. Like, it's just like Timothy Chalamet wandering around, and it's just like obsession. You got to do one, but like the bear is Timothy Chalamet.
Oh, I
and
like
it's just
that.
like bear spray.
Yeah.
And that's free.
That might confuse people, but I think it's a good idea.
That's the point. People are like, damn, this looks like it smells amazing. Oh, no, it's for bears. I'm always getting confused.
Yeah.
I see commercials on TV for cereal, and I'm like, oh, that's bear
Well,
cereal.
There's people out there that thought that this is bear repellent and that have like sprayed their kids with it, thinking that it'll like repel bears, and their kids end up in the hospital.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
So
right.
it is very important that you have the right messaging behind this product.
There's like mosquito repellent you spray on yourself, and then
Right.
there's mosquito killer, like a can of Raid or something.
Right.
You don't put that on yourself. Okay, we're learning a lot here.
Yeah.
All right, next question here. Zoos, are they good? Now, what I hear often from my friends that have kids is like, the zoo is the best to take the kids to because the kids love it. It passes a lot of time, but I don't know. I feel conflicted because the animals are in cages, and I don't know if it's the right message to be sending my kids. But what do you think? Zoos, are they good?
I think they're good.
Okay. I'm
gonna put like a little asterisk on that. and say that the zoos that I think are good are the ones that have to meet a certain level of standards. So in the US, we have what's called the AZA. It's a governing body that makes sure that zoos are treating their animals ethically, that they're doing everything they need to be doing to give those animals the best level of care. There's plenty of zoos around the world that aren't good, but as far as AZA zoos go, I think they're good. And the reason why, I think the most important reason is those animals serve as ambassadors for their species and they inspire people. You know, a lot of people aren't able to go to Africa or South America or wherever else to see these animals. And sometimes you do have to see something to really care about it. And that's just a human thing. And for me, that was the case. Like going to zoos as a kid inspired me. It made me care so much more about wildlife than just seeing them in picture books. And so those animals were ambassadors. So that's part one. Part two, zoos donate a ton of money toward conservation. Pretty much every zoo in the US will have different conservation organizations and projects that they are actively donating to. Much of the work I did with bears was directly funded by zoos. Part three, anymore in zoos, the animals that are there are animals that couldn't exist in the wild. So they are either born in captivity by existing zoo animals or people that were private collectors or whatever, or they were an animal that had to be removed from the wild. So for example, and I didn't finish with the moose and the bear, the campsite that those two were in was the same exact campsite where that guy had been killed that I had gone to investigate, just so you know. That's like a little end to that story. But that same story, the bear that did it had 3 cubs. And when she was put down, they had to do something with the cubs. Rather than kill those cubs, they sent them to a zoo. And they still live in a zoo in Salt Lake City. They're happy bears. I've visited those bears many times. They do great. Sorry, I'm rambling, but for a bear,
Did you tell them that their mother was a stone cold
I did
killer?
tell them. Well, they were too. I mean, they ate this guy as well. So,
Oh, so that's why you were like, the baby's a little screw loose.
they
here,
just,
so
yeah.
you gotta.
And you know what? They probably wouldn't have survived on their own. So they put them in the zoo. But for a bear, think about it. Like, I think we have this instinct to think, oh, these animals need to be out there, like roaming, like they love being in the wild. But what a bear really cares about is security, food, and sex. Like those are the 3 things that they want. And they can get all those things in a zoo, you know? And if you take this animal
Right.
and you put it on a salmon stream in Alaska and it has all those things right there, it may stay within a couple hundred yards the entire summer because it has all of those things right there. So they're not necessarily unhappy in zoos. Zoos give them a lot of enrichment. They do all these things for them to keep their brains active. They get mating opportunities often. They get food. They're safe. It's not a terrible existence for a lot of these animals. I do think there's some animals that don't belong in zoos. Orcas should not be in zoos. There's certain animals that I do think I get sad when I see them in zoos. But for the most part, I'm a big zoo advocate.
Mm-hmm. So what about like Planet of the Apes style, where there's a zoo, but it's us in the cage and the monkeys are looking at us? Does that make you think at all?
It does, yeah. It makes me think we probably deserve it. So if that ever ends up being our future, I think we've put all the dominoes in line for that. So, you know, maybe we deserve it.
What about like this very common picture that I used to see on dating apps of like a girl in a tiger cage, probably in Thailand, and this like she's hugging a tiger? That's bad, right?
That's bad. Yep. Yeah. Okay. So I think
Good.
Exploiting animals for photo ops or for just, you know, something like that is inherently really bad. Those animals are not treated well. They are just living in chains their entire lives. If you ever are at a zoo where you have the opportunity to like handle or touch these big dangerous animals, like I'm not talking about like goats or like a little petting zoo part of the zoo, but if you're able to like take a photo with a baby tiger or something like that, that's not a good zoo. They're exploiting those animals. That animal is not being treated well. I can promise you that.
Okay, so zoos are they're kind of good
Yeah.
unless we're in them.
Yes.
But if we're in them, we deserve them.
We deserve it.
That's,
Yeah.
well, there you go. All right, Wes, it's time for the Is This Good segment where, unfortunately, everything's bad. It's time to pick your poison. So here's how this works. I'm going to give you some related options. They're all bad, but you have to pick your poison. So whichever you consider the least worst option. And today's topic is fighting one movie animal. So I don't know if you're I'm sure familiar with the genre of like giant animal attacks people.
Oh yeah.
So JD, please put up the options. So now keep in mind, you have to be in one of these movies and you have to fight one of these animals. We have the giant crocodile from Lake Placid. We have, of course, the most classic of them all, the shark from Jaws. We have the anaconda from Anaconda. And we have the birds from Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. Now, I don't know if you've... Like, do you enjoy this genre of film?
I love this genre of film. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Good.
In fact,
Okay.
we
I don't know.
have
Have you seen all of these?
We have a category on Tooth and Claw called the Anaconda Scale, where we compare people from our stories to characters from Anaconda. And then Jaws is maybe my favorite movie ever. It's top 3 for sure. So yeah, I've seen all of these. Definitely.
Okay. Now, are you not upset at Jaws because for me, I saw Jaws. I remember we were on vacation in Maine. We were in a motel. The motel had HBO. It was a big thrill for us coming from Canada. Jaws was on. We watch it. And ever since then, I'm like, the ocean freaks me out. Like, at the time, I just didn't go in the ocean. I do now because I'm a big, brave boy.
Yeah.
But there was a while where I would jump in a pool and be like, are we sure?
Oh, me
Are we
too.
sure it's not in here?
Yeah.
And it, in a way, it makes people be like, fuck, if a shark gets finned, no big deal. They're all coming to kill us anyways. So you're okay with it, even despite this straw man argument I'm making right
Jaws
now.
did a lot of bad for sharks. And Peter Benchley admits that. I think Steven Spielberg has admitted that. It did a lot of bad for sharks. I wish that hadn't happened. It made people hate sharks. It's an amazing movie, though. Every shot in that movie is carefully crafted and thought about. And it's just such a great movie that I still love it. But yeah, I wish it didn't have the negative repercussions that it had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, why didn't it make people love sharks? It's so weird. All right, so you're gonna pick your poison, but before you do that, tell me which is the scariest. Like, which one of these movies do you definitely not want to be in?
For me, it's the crocodile, Lake Placid. That's an animal that does take people pretty regularly throughout the world. Crocodiles, as far as large animals are considered, that's probably the animal that's killed more than any other animal out there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Don't they say, like, hippos kill the most people?
They
or
do.
Is that not true?
They do, but it's not true. Crocodiles kill a lot more than hippos, a lot more. And then worldwide, a substantial amount more. Sharks often, they'll bite people, but it's typically just them kind of checking out if we're food, and we're generally too bony for them to really think that we're actually good food. And then anacondas, there's never been a recorded death from an anaconda.
Really?
Yeah, they're definitely capable of it. It's probably happened, but like in our, Western way of recording things, there's never been one. And then my winner here is the birds. I'm picking the birds if I have to tango with any of these animals.
You gotta but there's so many of them.
Yeah, I think I can
and
handle
they're
them.
inescapable.
Yeah, I think I'm okay.
What are you gonna do to a bird?
I'm just punching them out of the sky. I don't know. I just feel like if they were coordinated, then yeah, I'm a little more concerned. But if they're just coming at me randomly, I'm not too worried about birds.
And now I don't remember in the birds, is it just only one type of bird that is attacking them, or do the birds have they summoned every bird?
They used a lot of crows in that movie.
Yeah.
But I think it's supposed to be just birds in general. But yeah, just go inside, I don't know. Yeah.
Close the door.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true. Or maybe you recruit an army of squirrels to fight the
Yeah,
birds,
exactly.
something like
I'll
that.
figure something out. No, in fact, we did a goose episode for the podcast that was, I think, a subscriber episode. But you see all these videos of people fleeing from like a Canada goose that's chasing them. and like they are about to die. And it's when that animal makes contact with you, there's not much it can do. It's just intimidating. So I always tell people just like, don't be that worried about birds. Birds aren't really going to do much damage to you. You're okay. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what if I was going to put maybe two things I was going to put: the wolves from the Gray or the angry monkeys from the Congo. Remember where they're guarding the diamonds in there? They get shot with a laser, I think. Would any of those have been scarier to you?
The monkeys are scary to me. We've done a couple chimpanzees. We did a chimpanzee and I'm preparing another one. They are an animal that is capable of ripping you apart with their hands. And to me, and their chimpanzees can be extremely aggressive. I know in Congo they're like a weird gorilla, but I don't want to be attacked by primates. It's just they're too close to us. It feels too human and weird. Yeah. So they kind of do scare me actually. Congo scared me a lot when I was a kid actually. That's got hippos in it too. Remember that scene when they're on the river? Yeah. Where they like chuck the eyeball at the guy and stuff. I don't know. That was just kind of I think I was a little too young for that movie. The wolves in the Gray.
Okay, here.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the wolves. Yeah.
The wolves.
No, I was going to say a new rhyme could be, if it's a chimp, be a simp.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you see a chimp and it's angry, just be
You kind of do have to be submissive with them. Yeah.
Yeah.
The wolves, in the lower 48 at least, there's no documented killings by wolves on people. In Alaska, one happened.
What's this fucking Jack London a liar?
Yeah.
What's going on there?
They're still a potentially dangerous animal. There's a pack that killed a woman in Alaska not too long ago. And then in places like India, some other places in the world where it's the exact same species, gray wolf, Canis lupus, people die every year from this animal. But I wouldn't feel too scared if I was out in the woods and I was surrounded by a pack of wolves. I think I would enjoy the experience. So, yeah.
Okay, if you say so.
Yeah.
Liam Neeson seemed to be having trouble, but you must have a very particular set of skills. All right, next question here. This is a weird one. If you had to have, again, we're still in Pick Your Poison here, one animal print for your entire wardrobe, okay? So your entire wardrobe is going to turn into this one animal print. What are you picking? Cow print, alligator print, leopard print, or zebra print?
I gotta go with leopard. I'm not happy with any of these options or any animal print option, to be honest. But
these are not real animal skins, just to be clear.
Yeah.
Made with ink.
I pick leopard. I think that's the one that out of these ones that every once in a while I see it, I'm like, oh, I kind of like that look. But it's few and far in between.
Okay, so you don't want to go like the zebra. I think kind of. I don't know. There's something about it that's rock and roll to me.
Yeah, like those pants.
Did Elton John ever wear that kind of thing? Or like Axl Rose, a zebra pants, anything? Or Shawn Michaels from Poison? Must have.
Yeah, I feel like there was those pants in like the 90s that were super popular that were like professional wrestlers would wear and stuff that had zebra patterns on them. What are those called? I can't remember.
Zubaz?
Yeah, something like that. But I don't know, it's too flashy. I think I'd pick the leopard still. They're all flashy. There's not a good answer here.
JD, what are you picking here?
Well, first of all, I have to correct you. I can't let it go. It's Bret Michaels from
Bret Michaels. Shawn Michaels is the wrestler. Sorry.
That's right. I think I'm going snake.
That's not a snake, JD. That's an alligator.
Oh, alligator. I'm going alligator. Alligator. Yeah. Okay. It's reptilian. The cow is too blotchy. It looks like a Rorschach test, you know. And I feel like the zebra is a little too messy. My second would be the leopard, but yeah, the reptilian. I just like it. It works on boots and hats and everything in between.
And hats.
Yeah.
I think, and I mean, this is truly a pick your poison. If all your wardrobe gets turned into one of these, I would just say you don't want to be the cow.
No.
Because then you don't want people mooing at you, and it's very kooky aunt kind of thing.
Yeah. Like, it feels very childish of all
to have
of them.
everything in cow print.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we settled that one. Wes, not everyone's going to agree with everything you say, but sometimes you have to stand alone on the edge of popular consensus. It's time for unpopular opinions. In this segment, I'm going to throw an unpopular opinion I found on the internet about animals, kind of, in a way, these ones. And you tell me if you agree with this unpopular opinion. First one, you're never too old to sleep with a stuffed animal. So this person says, why do a lot of people still have the stuffed animals are for babies mindset? Even if you don't sleep with it, there's no harm in having one next to your bed or in your room as an adult, especially if it's one from your childhood that brings you comfort. So, well, before you tell me if you agree, did you have a favorite stuffed animal as a kid?
Not really. I was never a big... I had like a collection maybe, but I didn't like sleep with them or anything. It was more like stuff I won at the arcade and decided to keep. But I didn't have like a favorite or like a treasured one. No.
That's right. Wes didn't need a plush animal to help him fall asleep at night. This guy, even as a child, he was someone who knew he could tackle a bear. He's not going to play with a tiny stuffed bear.
Yeah. I mean, I was more into real animals for sure.
Okay, and of course your blankie. You did have a blankie.
I did have a blankie.
Just admit it. We all
Yes,
had a blankie.
I did have a blankie. Yeah.
If an adult has a stuffed animal on their bed, I assume they're having sex with it.
Yeah.
Male or female. I just assume that
There's something
it's just
kinky
a
going on.
special relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, next unpopular opinion.
I just
you have
really
something to
quick.
say. Sorry.
I don't think that's wrong though. I personally just think if that thing brings you comfort, sure, go for it.
Yes,
I don't care at all. You know, am I going to want to maybe date someone that needs to sleep with their stuffed animal if I was single? No, probably not. But yeah, if it makes you happy, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
I say no, just to be different.
Okay.
All right, next one here. There's plenty of fish in the sea. There's plenty of fish in the sea is a really dumb thing to say to someone who can't find a partner. So this person says, people have preferences. Just because there's fish to catch, it doesn't mean it's a fish you want. Maybe you want a salmon or a bass or a tilapia, but you keep getting sharks or pufferfish or piranha. The phrase only works if it doesn't matter who or what you're looking for. Unfortunately, people have preferences, types, and standards. Nobody is just going to go for any fish. So, Wes, this is my favorite kind of unpopular opinion because it's one where it's very clear that someone has just said something to someone and then they're hurt by it and they go on the internet to complain about it. This person was like, someone didn't like them back and someone said there's plenty of fish in the sea. And then this person was like, but there's so many different kinds of fish. I mean, I'll just say I don't know if this person is willfully misunderstanding, but I think the sentiment of the expression is just, there's so many different kinds of fish in the sea. You're bound to find one you like.
Right.
But what say you, a wildlife expert? Is plenty of fish in the sea a mean thing to say to someone who can't find a partner?
No, I'd just say like change your bait. You know, if you're not catching salmon, maybe figure out how to catch a salmon. No, I mean I've been in a relationship now for a long time. I haven't really gotten to do the internet dating with the apps and everything as much as everyone else. But to me, it seems like it's easier to meet a huge pool of people than it ever has been in human history. And maybe it's harder to find the person that exactly fits what you're looking for, but you're able to now. And it's different from like our parents that just kind of had to marry someone that was like on their same street, you know? You can literally find the perfect person for you. You just have to put in the time. So I tend to disagree with that one. I think you just got to try a little harder maybe, or be a little more patient.
Yeah. And you also can't, this person's sort of saying like, well, I'm deciding what I want before I go fishing.
Yeah.
And first of all, why are we even saying that this expression is about a man literally fishing? How do you know you're not also a fish in the ocean with the fish? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're making a lot of assumptions here. But anyways, let's just say
maybe you'll like tilapia.
You know you want a snapper.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, tilapia is a terrible fish. Let's be honest.
But give it a shot. You know,
tasteless.
Why not?
Nah. Well, if it's got a good sauce on it, maybe. But otherwise, I'd say skip it. So let's say you know you want snapper, but you can't say there's plenty of snapper in the sea because as a human, you can't tell the difference between snapper the way you can between women, let's say. So how do you know you don't want cod? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
You might say you want snapper, but you may want cod. And that's just the sea. Wes, what about the freshwater fish? What about a largemouth bass?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of options out there. And I think either way you look at it, from a female perspective, a male perspective, non-gendered perspective, there are more options than we've ever had for both romantic and friendship partnerships. And you have literally access to them at your fingertips. So get out there. If you're that frustrated, get out there. Maybe work on yourself before you do it. And that's for everyone, not this specific person. And
Okay, it sort of sounds like you're saying there's too many fish in the sea.
that might be the case for some. For me, I found the right fish, and it wasn't the fish I ever thought that I would be fishing for. So, yeah.
There you go.
See,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. See, for me, I got a smallmouth bass because the largemouth, they never shut up. Am I right? Okay. All right. There's only one thing left to do, Wes, and that's play subjective trivia. So subjective trivia is just like regular trivia, except only I know the answer. So as a bit of a lead-in, are you familiar with the genre of internet animal posts that are interspecies animal friendships?
Yes.
Okay. This got me through the pandemic. Like if I was stressed out and I saw a video from the dodo of a fox and a goat being best friends, I calmed right down. So I prepared just an example of some classic interspecies animal friendships for you here that JD's going to show you. And I'll just take you through them. On the top left, we have Owen, an orphaned baby hippopotamus, snuggling with Mazee, a 130-year-old tortoise. Okay, that's cross-generational. Of course, we've got maybe the highest profile case, Coco, the gorilla, cuddling a kitten. We've got a baby monkey named Miwa riding around on the back of a baby boar named Uribo. And then in the bottom right, my favorite, this one, they're called the BLT. That's short for Bear, Lion, Tiger. And that's the nickname for this threesome that was reportedly found in a drug dealer's basement. There you go. Wow. Drugs, they're not all bad. So I show you this just to say, those are some examples. But my question today is, what animal would I most want to be friends with? Because I think any animal would be an interspecies relationship, and not a weird if you're thinking I'm doing something weird with the animals, like JD suggesting with these stuffed ones, what I would do with a stuffed animal is none of your business. But with an animal, it's purely platonic.
All right.
And don't tell me, oh, you've seen When Harry Met Sally. Men and animals can't just be friends. We can. So here are your options, and I've written my answer down here just so you know I'm not cheating. I'm trying to get to the same answer. So which of these animals would I most want to be friends with? A wolf, a kangaroo, a giraffe, or a dolphin? What say you, Wes? Which animal do you think and JD doesn't know my answer, so you can consult with him.
So I'm trying to guess what you would most want to be friends with, or what makes the best friend for a human being.
Well, truly, you're trying to guess who I would want to be most friends with,
Okay.
but you could start from this place. Which of these animals would you most want to be friends with? Wolf, kangaroo, giraffe, or dolphin?
For me, without a doubt, it's the wolf. This is an animal that lived, we were able to domesticate this animal, and now they're part of our social circle. Like, dogs are the only animal out there that sees us as part of their society, and that's because they have that within their evolution. So a wolf, to me, would be the easiest one to convert into a pet, an animal that I could trust.
Again, I want to correct you there. I'm not saying pet. I'm saying friend.
Okay.
So this wolf could live in the forest. I come visit it. I give it a handful of berries every day. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. I'm still picking the wolf for me, but so the other ones were a dolphin, a giraffe, and what?
And a kangaroo.
And a kangaroo. I'm going to say the giraffe is what you want to be your friend.
Are you calling me short, Wes?
No.
You saying I can't reach the top shelf?
I'm not saying that at all. That's just a majestic animal to be friends with, and I would feel very honored if a giraffe decided to be friends with me. So, yeah.
Okay. JD,
Wow.
does that sound like the right answer?
I mean, I like that answer a lot. It's very, very easy for me to picture you riding around on a giraffe as friends.
As friends.
As friends. Yes,
Platonically.
as friends.
As friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am intrigued by the dolphin. I feel like you live on the land,
Right.
and the dolphin lives in the sea. So, it would give you a window into the sea. You could also ride a dolphin, but I think giraffe is a good answer. I think we should go with giraffe.
Talking about potentially having an inappropriate relationship with a giraffe, you just reminded me that where I lived when I was in law school, there was like a security guard in the building. It was a big high rise. And one time, no context, I still don't know why he ever said this to me or what it means. I was walking to the building and he said, "Hey, did you hear about the mouse that was dating a giraffe?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Yeah, the mouse was really tired. Up to kiss, down to fuck. Up to kiss, down to fuck." And I was like, what? Wes, what does that mean?
I mean, just that it would have to travel long distances between parts and the lips.
I guess, but why? What's such a weird joke? It's not even a joke,
it's very
really.
strange.
It's a weird joke. All right, Wes, well, you've given me your answer. JD agrees with you. He thinks it's giraffe, but unfortunately, you should have gone with your gut because the answer is the wolf.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, it's in your
You're
DNA.
right, because it's
Yeah.
dog-like, but it's not a dog. And it could pull a sled if necessary. And it's ferocious. It would protect you better than I think a kangaroo or a giraffe or a dolphin. And I think I would feel like the cock of the walk walking around with a wolf. And then maybe in our spare time we try to kill Liam Neeson, you know?
Good luck.
All right, that's subjective trivia. Wes, where can people find you?
So our podcast is called Tooth and Claw. The whole point of the podcast is telling stories of animal attacks, but breaking them down so that people understand that often it's the humans that are at fault for these kind of interactions, not the animal. So we're trying to
Blaming the victim.
We're not blaming the victims, but we're trying to desensationalize these kind of stories. Because I think learning what went wrong and then learning what you can then do to prepare yourself when you're out in the great outdoors empowers people and gives people the ability to understand these animals on a much deeper level. So that's the podcast. You get the fun stories of these crazy encounters, but then you also get a little bit of science and a little bit of insight into the animal world. So that's what it's all about. And I do it with my co-hosts, Mike and Jeff. Jeff's my little brother. Mike's our mutual friend. They're both very funny. They add a bit of levity to those conversations.
JD, don't you think it's nice that I work with you on this podcast, but unlike Wes, I don't try to kill you by making you fight a bear?
That's my favorite thing about you, actually.
Yeah. I'm not like looking for a good producer, excellent at Pro Tools, also can fight a bear.
Yeah, good with the shovel.
Once you guys run out of things that are good, though, you might have to, get a little bit more creative with your content and fight some bears.
Yeah. Fair enough.
All right. Well, remember to check us out at patreon.com/isthisgood. Give us some money so we don't have to fight bears. And if you have topics, email us at isthisgoodpod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Thanks so much to Wes for coming on. Thanks in advance for leaving a 5-star review for everyone. I'm Matt Austin, and this was good. We'll see you next week.